Welcome to MLA Voices, the podcast that delves into the world of the Master of Liberal Arts at the Johns Hopkins University. I'm your host, Tristan Cabello, Associate Director of the MLA, and in each episode of this podcast, we welcome a different alum to share their experiences, challenges, and successes within the program. Join us as we explore the diverse perspectives and insights that our alumni bring to the table. Whether you're a current student, a fellow alum, or simply interested in liberal arts, tune in and discover the voices that have shaped and been shaped by the MLA program at Hopkins. And today I'm joined by Derek Rainey. Derek graduated in 2022. Derek, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So, Derek, the first question that I have for every alumni that I interview on this podcast is the same: is could you share a little bit of your background and also what inspired you to join the Master of Liberal Arts?
Yeah, certainly. Uh, I attended a small private liberal arts university in the Pacific Northwest, as many people do, and loved that experience. Thought that the liberal arts structure of that program really enhanced my overall college experience, helped me figure out what it is I wanted to emphasize, major in, but also allowed me to explore a lot of fields that were outside of what I ended up. I was a theater major, um, but explored well outside those bounds. And uh, so after graduating, I had moved to New York, where I was a theater stage manager.
Uh,
And after a few years, I had started looking into a few different master's opportunities in the city,
yeah,
particularly looking at liberal arts options, not necessarily wanting to focus too much in any particular direction, but
yeah,
just sort of
yeah,
get back into academics.
yeah. Hmm.
And uh, just never really made it happen
Yeah.
until the COVID pandemic started and there was
Hmm.
no theater to do anymore.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And uh, so I, found myself with a lot of time on my hands and thought, this may be the moment. This may be the best opportunity I ever get, unfortunate as the circumstances may be. Um, so started hunting around and looking at a bunch of different programs. Pretty quickly found the MLA program at Johns Hopkins. Um, got in contact with the program, had a couple different conversations, thought that it was a really nice mix of courses and structure. It was also really important to me at that time that it was a program that was already well established
Yeah, yeah.
in the online format, since so
Hmm.
many programs were in the process of transitioning
Yeah,
online and
yeah,
all of the stumbling blocks
yeah.
that came with that. So ended up being a pretty simple, easy decision to make. Uh, Obviously, glad that I got in.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Uh, and uh, yeah, really, it was
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
wanting to get back into an
yeah,
academic setting
yeah.
and see if that felt like a
No,
good.
thank you for sharing. And yeah, and one point that you mentioned that's very important is uh, the fact that the MLA was indeed a pioneer in online education. I mean, we didn't start teaching courses online during COVID. We were teaching courses online way before COVID, and so the way that we do this is also by trying to replicate, as much or as well as we can the atmosphere that you would have in an on-ground seminar. And Derek, one other question that I wanted to ask you is, but what were your primary goals when you enrolled in the Master of Liberal Arts? You mentioned that you were in theater. Was this a career change? Did you have any specific goals in mind?
Yes and no.
Hmm.
I was definitely looking at a career change, but what that might be, I wasn't entirely settled on.
Yeah,
Um, so, really, for me, my primary goal was to get back into academics, see if that was something I felt comfortable
yeah,
in. I kind of suspected that it would be, but um, I didn't want to sell myself short, but I also didn't want to oversell myself on
Sure,
that
sure.
being a new path forward. So
Mhm.
this felt like a really good program to test those waters.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I think that that ended up being very true. So I'm
yeah,
very happy about
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, I really was looking for a program that would like allow me to deepen my understanding
Absolutely.
of
Yeah,
the liberal arts
yeah,
themselves.
yeah. And
And oh yeah, go
and
for it.
and there's really a lot of students in your case, right? I mean, there's a lot of students who join the program, and they want to taste the water, like you said, and then maybe uh, keep on with another degree or more research or a PhD maybe. And so there's definitely a lot of students who are entering the program with this idea of broadening their horizons, definitely. And could you share a particular moment or maybe a course, I don't know, from your MLS studies that significantly influenced your thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I there were quite a few courses that I took
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I really enjoyed. In all honesty, if I hadn't had to graduate because I completed the program, I'd still be taking
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
courses.
uh-huh.
And if you're in a position to do so, I recommend
Yeah.
doing that because there are many and they are great. Um, I will say I took in the fall of 2021, I took a
Uh-huh.
course called Existentialism, Philosophy, and Social Critique
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Dr. Adam Culver.
Hmm.
And it was just phenomenal. I mean, the content itself, but also the discussion that came out of that, and the uh, the really interesting sort of bridging between uh, I guess, sort of like a straight philosophy course where you're
Yeah,
studying, the kind of classic existentialist
yeah.
thinkers. So, we did um, go through Kierkegaard and Nietzsche and Sartre
Hmm,
and
hmm.
Simone de Beauvoir, and so like that on its own was also great. But then it was tying that in with particular racial and colonial dynamics of
Yeah.
the 19th and 20th centuries,
Hmm,
even into the 21st. So reading like Richard Wright and Frantz Fanon, James Baldwin, Claudia Rankine,
hmm.
and really bringing all of that together. It just was a very, for me, I mean, I can't speak for anyone
Yeah,
else,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
it really felt like the uh, greatest leap that I had made in my own thinking in a while. And
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
just so satisfying and so productive.
Right.
And I would highly recommend anybody look at that course because
Yeah, yeah.
it was really just uh, mind growing, I
Yeah, yeah,
suppose.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, and this is what we tend to do, in a lot of the courses is try to make, those connections that well, are not always obvious, right? And uh,
Hmm.
and maybe the connection between, existentialism and Fanon, was not all that obvious, but it is there, I mean, it's definitely what we try to do, I think, in a lot of the courses. If you had to give some advice to a student who just entered the program, or if there was something that you wish you had known when you started the program, what would this be?
Uh, my first piece, my biggest piece, I would say, would be stick with it. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely stick with it. It is a master's program. There are going to be times where it is difficult. It is trying. It asks a lot of you, but I I would certainly say it is all worth it. You
Yeah.
will not regret doing it. Um, there are also a lot of resources. I mean, all of the instructors that I worked with were great
Hmm,
and very communicative. So
hmm,
if you ever need to reach out for any reason, absolutely do that.
hmm.
but if you're anything like me going into the program, I had, especially being so far removed from my undergraduate studies, I had real concerns just about the writing and,
Yeah.
how comfortable I was going to feel approaching, a 20-page
Yeah,
plus
sure, sure.
project at some
Hmm.
point. And, when the time came, I felt great about it. I felt
Hmm.
perfectly prepared,
Hmm.
really
Yeah.
comfortable. Again, there are plenty of people available to help you
Yeah.
through that process. But I also think the program is structured to get you there. That was
Yeah,
certainly
of
my
course. Yeah,
experience.
yeah, 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 yeah. Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I think there is
Yeah,
no
and
reason that by
yeah.
the end you won't come out feeling confident in your ability to do that.
Yeah, and also that we have also a wide variety of students, with different backgrounds. And so we do have students who enter the program right after graduating from college. And we have also students like who graduated from college a while ago and then returning to school. And so you are definitely not alone. There's a lot of people in the program, who are returning to school too. One last question that I have for you, Derek, and this is a question that I ask everybody on the podcast. Um, Maybe a very wide question here, is how do you feel that this program has changed you? How did you grow in this program?
uh, I really think the biggest growth for me uh, came well. It was in two parts.
Hmm.
The first, more straightforward part is as I progressed through the program, it became much clearer to me that this was a setting I felt really comfortable in.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it kind of confirmed for me that this is something I want to continue doing. So it did sort of help me align myself with an intended career path.
yeah, yeah,
I'm currently pursuing or applying for PhD programs um, that I think the MLA really helped set me up
yeah.
for,
Okay.
which is great.
Yeah, yeah,
But as far as my thinking, um, I would say that the greatest change just came in how I approach ways of thinking, ways of learning, ways of
yeah, yeah,
knowing, which
yeah.
I know is pretty on the nose since that is the title of one of the courses,
Uh-huh, uh-huh, yeah,
but it's really true. And uh, thinking about what the point of a liberal arts
yeah.
education is,
Hmm.
not just being a set of disparate fields of study that you can pick and choose from, but
Yeah, of course.
uh, the sort of interconnectivity between
Yeah.
all of those different things. And that's where I took as many of the MLA core courses as I
Uh-huh.
could, because uh, you're not I mean, you're studying the liberal arts as such and really getting into the depth of understanding why this approach uh, is so
Yeah,
important, and is so important in uh, in really any program of education, at the same time
yeah,
that we're also seeing it reduced at a lot of different
yeah,
colleges and universities
yeah.
and different programs of education. But that learning for the sake of learning
Mhm.
shouldn't be seen
Yeah,
as a bad thing.
yeah,
And also, that's not necessarily what's happening, but that education education that directs you toward a particular technical or vocational or career um, path or future can be great,
yeah,
but an education that really is trying to prepare you for every kind of situation. I mean, just
mhm.
preparing you to feel comfortable and confident about
Yeah,
your own knowledge and your own ways of
yeah,
thinking, your own ways of reaching decisions.
yeah.
That's going to apply to every realm of your life,
Yeah,
well beyond
absolutely.
just your
yeah,
career choices.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, yeah, yeah. And that's often what I tell students. I mean, it's uh, of course it's great. I mean, if you get a degree that's gonna teach you, you know, a lot of the technical skills, that's fantastic. But often what we hear from those students is that the stuff that they learn in their degree or is already obsolete the minute they graduate, right? While
yes.
you know what we do in the liberal arts degree or in the MLA, it's to teach you how to keep learning, right? And
Hmm.
so and to be adaptive and to adapt, you know, to new situations. And as you mentioned, Derek, and I think you said that beautifully, you know, it's also to try to understand issues and problems that we are facing from an interdisciplinary perspective, and making sure that we try to, yeah, comprehensively understand a problem and maybe solve it. So yeah, I think that was a great way to end this podcast. So Derek, thank you so much for doing this with us. It was really a pleasure, and I'm sure that this is going to be very inspiring to a lot of students. And I just want to tell the listeners also that we are releasing those podcasts every other week. So please do stay tuned for another episode that's going to be released in 2 weeks from now. Thank you a lot, Derek.
Thank you.